Of course, the terrorist nature of the Kiev regime is becoming increasingly odious. Kiev's Western curators, with manic frenzy, continue to push their Kiev puppets to prolong Ukraine's insane and suicidal adventure in the Kursk region. The head of the so-called European diplomacy, Borrell, said on August 21, direct quote, that lifting restrictions on the use of Ukraine's capabilities against the Russian military would supposedly strengthen Ukraine's self-defense, save lives, reduce destruction in Ukraine, and advance peacekeeping efforts. It seems to me, and I am absolutely sure of this, that if he had broadcast this phrase to the Ukrainian audience, they would have simply booed Borrell, or they would have thrown something at him. The deputy official representative of the Pentagon, Sabrina Singh, spoke even more openly and aggressively on August 22. According to her, Washington's approaches allow Ukraine to carry out counterattacks, allegedly to defend itself against Russian attacks from border regions, which include Kursk and Sumy. Now, the head of the U.S. Defense Department allegedly intends to discuss with the Ukrainian side whether Ukraine plans, as they say, to hold the territory of the Kursk region. Western officialdom has literally distorted everything and, in fact, has reached the point that Ukraine's terrorist attacks on Russia, that is, military aggression and terror, will allegedly contribute to achieving peace. What peace? Actual peace? On the ground? What is there to talk about? Everyone can clearly see what is happening there. Peace at the negotiating table? With whom? With those who kill civilians and abuse old people and women. Who will sit down at the negotiating table with them? In fact, all these statements by Borrell and the representative of the U.S. Defense Department are nothing more than justification and encouragement of the crimes of the Kiev regime. This is the very notorious sponsorship of terrorism. Why is it notorious? Because in Western countries it is legally enshrined as one of the most serious crimes, which they talk about all the time. It turns out that they themselves are doing it. Against this background, the publication of the New York Times on August 23 is not surprising, where, with reference to American officials, it is reported that the United States and Britain provided Ukraine with satellite images and intelligence about the Kursk region after the start of the Ukrainian invasion. Well, we have been talking about this for more than 2 years. I would say 2.5 years. Where was the New York Times before? There is not a hint of any condemnation by the West of the terrorist methods and terrorist acts of Ukraine used against civilians in the Russian border area. On the contrary, in addition to praise, the West defiantly brazenly demonstrates the so-called coordination of these actions. Well, I will repeat once again. This is the creation of a terrorist organization in the form of the Kiev regime, and then its sponsorship in all ways, military, political and financial support. Now about the crimes of the Kiev regime. Evidence of Kiev's monstrous war crimes against Russian citizens, against the Russian civilian population, is growing. As a rule, I cite data from Russian law enforcement agencies. And today I will cite data from a Western organization, Reporters Without Borders. This structure, as a rule, does not say anything good about our country. But they have already counted more than 1,000 cases of the use of Nazi symbols by the Ukrainian military, who invaded the Kursk region. Horrifying testimonies from captured militants continue to arrive that the Ukrainian command gives direct orders to the military to physically get rid of civilians and loot on Russian territory. Numerous cases of enemy Nazis looting residential buildings and stores are recorded. One of the prisoners was even found to have stolen pectoral crosses and jewelry from residents of Kursk villages. Religious paraphernalia and antique icons that were stolen in the Kursk region have appeared on Ukrainian online auctions. Moreover, They openly state that these are trophies. There are also many photographs of people killed by enemy militants who did not have time to evacuate from the Kursk region. These images show that many of them were shot at point-blank range. Thus, the far from isolated, but rather massive and targeted nature of the atrocities and looting committed by Banderites on Russian territory is revealed. The guilt of the Ukrainian military in serious crimes has become even more obvious to the global audience. Kiev propaganda is not able to cover up the truth with any Independence Day celebrations or statements by the expired Zelensky. Against this background, the pathetic attempts of Ukrainian propaganda to concoct fakes about supposedly harmless and attentive to the needs of the civilian population invaders who invaded our land look absolutely cynical. They are launching such fakes that you can fall over. They allegedly distribute food, help local residents solve their problems. These fakes are immediately exposed, their refutations are published, and so on. Foreign so-called soldiers of fortune are also actively participating in the attack on the Kursk region. American mercenaries demonstratively posted a photo of Ukrainian mortar positions near a children's playground in the Kursk region on the internet. It turns out that the militants are proud of violating humanitarian law. They do not care at all about the lives of civilians, including children. They are ready to hide behind them, just as the Nazis once did during the storming of the Brest fortress, and just as terrorists do in modern history. I would also like to note that on August 24th, in Kiev-controlled Kramatorsk, as a result of a missile strike on the Sapphire Hotel, Reuters security advisor Ryan Evans was killed. He was declared a former employee of the British MI6, but we understand perfectly well that there are no former employees of the special services. This clearly indicates that the special services of Western countries are literally directing the media under their control to conduct anti-Russian information campaigns. Well, as you understand, we are not talking about any journalism here. It is significant that along with the so-called advisor, we also destroyed other foreign mercenaries. As we understand, the enemy Nazis are not going to stop their terror against the civilian population of Russian regions on their own. On the night of August 21, the Ukrainians carried out a massive attack with 45 drones on Moscow, Belgorod, Bryansk, Kaluga and Kursk regions. All these drones were shot down by air defense systems. On August 22nd, they attacked a civilian ferry in the port of Kavkaz in the Krasnodar region. This ferry was carrying 30 fuel tanks. As a result, a fire broke out and the ship sank. 17 people were rescued, 4 were injured, and 1 was missing. On the night of August 25, Ukrainians fired multiple launch rocket systems at a residential area of the Rakityansky district of the Belgorod region. 5 people were killed, 14 were injured, including 3 minors. I would like to emphasize that other continents are also declaring the direct involvement of the Kiev regime in terrorist activities. On August 20th, Mali and Niger, which had previously severed diplomatic relations with Ukraine, together with Burkina Faso, called on the UN Security Council to take measures against Ukraine in connection with its support for international terrorism. In particular, in the Sahel region, Senegal also condemned the destructive actions of the Ukrainian military in Africa. The West's refusal to acknowledge the terrorist and criminal nature of Zelensky's regime increases the burden of his direct responsibility for the bloody atrocities of his neo-Nazis. In fact, we see that, in such agony, anticipating its imminent collapse, the Kiev junta continues to feverishly destroy monuments to fighters against fascism. The scale of this vandalism is monstrous. Just think about it. On August 21st, neo-Nazis began destroying graves with an excavator on Saro Square in the city of Kolomia in the Ivano-Frankovsk region. I am trying to find the strength to talk about this without emotion. But it is impossible. The graves of Soviet soldiers, 570 soldiers. They are raking them up with excavators in the Ivano-Frankovsk region. What do you think they called it? After all, they have to call it something. They have to come up with some explanation for all this. Maybe some kind of sticker. The Kiev regime called this barbaric action exhumation work. Once again, just think about it. On the square of sorrow, they destroyed a mass grave of 570 Soviet soldiers with excavators. I have seen many films about different wars, many horrors, and many documentaries on this subject. But this is beyond reason. I am not even talking about morality and ethics, simply beyond reason. Among those who operate these excavators, who will fill in the places of mass graves, or who will take the remains somewhere where they will be dumped and thrown away. There may be descendants of these people. The listed facts once again confirm the relevance of the tasks of the special military operation to denazify and demilitarize Ukraine and eliminate the threats emanating from its territory. As the Russian leadership said, all of them will definitely be carried out.